there is your confirmation of the top 10, and you can see that there's just 1.2 seconds covering the top 2, but more importantly only 0.3 of a second covering the top 4. There's a half-hour practice session tomorrow morning, 4 hours before the Grand Prix itself, and the teams will be working very, very hard indeed to perfect their setup.
So 7th pole position of the year for Mike Schumacher, as they like to call him out here. Let's just go through the second half of the field. Wirtz 11th, Zonta, Verstappen, Salo, Fisichella, Heidfeld, Irvine in the first of the Jaguars in 17th, Della Rosa, Herbert and Lacey, and 21st and 22nd the two Minardis of Mazzacani and Genet.
Well, that's it then, and another one for Ferrari, and remember that Mika Häkkinen now is on the second row of the grid, so what happens between Schumacher, Coulthard and Häkkinen, and of course Rubens Barrichello, who so magnificently won a Grand Prix this year already in Germany, is going to be more than interesting. Michael Schumacher, his usual smiling self, he's got everything to look very pleased about. His 6th pole position of the year.
Schumacher at Indianapolis with a helping hand from teammate Rubens Barrichello. He is on pole for the American Grand Prix. Here's the top 3 in the press conference.
Michael, you were either very, very brave, or you must have had a very accurate weather forecast, the way you sat there and let everyone go out for that first run before we went out. How did you know it wasn't going to rain?
I was hoping. Usually, circuit is anyway a little bit slower initially. And no, I was confident it's not going to rain, honestly. Even though when I went out, I got few spots on my visor, I got concerned. So I pushed a bit harder to finish the lap early, to get in one lap.
The last 2 runs you did, you went out together with Rubens. Were you looking to get a good tow down the straight and swap it between yourselves?
Basically, yes. I mean, you have such a long straight here, so we play a bit of team tactics, as the other 2 guys did in the end.
Now, once again, you're fastest in qualifying, but yesterday, which was sort of race setup day, you weren't as quick as the McLarens. Are you happy you've got a good race setup for tomorrow?
Don't worry. Yes.
Thank you, Michael. David, you just missed getting the pole position, but it was some great teamwork there. Whose idea was it to send Mika out with you for those last 2 laps he had left over?
My idea. Well, it was my idea. Actually, Adrian came across and said, would it help if Mika gave you a tow? To which, all his answer is, of course, yes, it would help. And I think the way we did it worked quite well for me, so I'm not sure how much time it gained me, but it certainly gained me a little bit down the straight. Now, it's pretty obvious that there is a very considerable tow down this straight, and from the speed trap times, you guys are running a lot more wing during qualifying. Do you expect everyone to take wing off for the race to make advantage of that speed, straight line speed?
I think it will be, although this is a longer straight than we have or longer amount of flat out, 100% throttle than we have at other tracks, I think the same sort of strategy for race setup will apply, because you still need to get through the infield section. So yes, there probably will be some wing taken off, but you want to make sure that you've got the quickest race car.
Thanks, David. Mika, your selfish act of helping David meant you've dropped down a place. Are you disappointed?
No, not really, no.
You do it again?
It depends the situation, of course, but this time it was actually it was ideal, and looking at the starting grid anyway, it is a bit weird because they have this old tarmac, well, what we call it, you know, old road, old track on the surface on the starting grid. So when you do your start, you're going to lose the traction very easily going over those little bumps. So maybe the second row is not too bad after all.
Now, you've helped David today, but tomorrow in the race, the championship, do you expect a bit of payback? Do you think he'll help you?
Well, at the moment we go there to race, tomorrow we go there to win. Me and also the David. So we'll see how the race will go on, and we have to understand what chances we have, which positions we have able to get, and let's see how the race develops.
Well, all of them a little bit guarded in the press conference, but Tony, when Michael Schumacher says don't worry and gives that little smile, The rest of them do worry, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I mean, he means business when he does that little confident grin or whatever, because they've done a great deal of work back at Mugello, back at Fiorano, leading up to this race. All on computer simulation, don't forget, because none of them have been here before. These super hard, thick carcassed Bridgestone tyres which they've been using. Bridgestone has said you've got to run much higher pressures, which means they're very, very hard. And there's normally a bit of give in the tyres as part of the suspension movement because there's not much movement. So they've done a very, very good job. Their engineers have done a tremendous job. And Michael Schumacher is on a high.
It seemed to me that Michael Schumacher always had control of this session, though, Tony.
Yeah, he did. The car looked very stable. He's been strutting his stuff. And as James noted during the qualifying session, he'd been backing off wing each time they've gone out, in contrast to McLaren, who've kept their wing on. And it really is a circuit of two halves, almost 50% on the long straight, 50% on the infield. So what do? You've got to either have a compromise or you go really, really brave with low wing.
How about the World Championship favourite Mika Hakkinen? Will he be disappointed ending up on that second row?
No, I think it's tactical. I think he wants to avoid the bricks on the front row. I think they did have problems with where they were putting the tyres. I think the fact that they've had to compensate and put softer springs on because of these very, very hard tyres means they've had a different sort of McLaren to cope with. And they have struggled a little bit behind for a Ferrari, but you saw there Hakkinen way up high on the white line, coming in low on a super slingshot and grabbing that second place. That was an excellent job by Hakkinen.
We've talked a lot about team orders in that McLaren team. It's ironical, isn't it, that David Coulthard would appear to have benefited from a bit of help from Mika Hakkinen.
Yeah, Mika with a silver plate saying, yo, go and have the front row. I don't subscribe to that view. I think that here, this was a deliberate ploy. You're going to see the two teammates in Ferrari and McLaren working for each other during the race because of the long straights, because of the slipstreaming or the drafting as it's called here in American racing. Now, I think that was to get David Coulthard up onto the front row because his job will be to push Michael Schumacher. Perhaps Coulthard will go out on a lower fuel load, a different fuel strategy to Hakkinen to try and strain that Ferrari engine, try and goad Schumacher into really going for it in the American Grand Prix.
Just spell out exactly for us, Tony, why it's happened here, teammates giving each other a tow and nowhere else.
There is Lisa Dennis there just doing the big congratulations for her team. It's because of the long straights. It's because it's very wide, because they see lots of opportunities for overtaking as well, even on some of the wider infield sections, that they feel it is not that critical to be on the pole position. They're thinking about the long term, the race, the strategy. Where do I need to be positioned? And clearly Hakkinen's thinking about just about the traction away from the start, what Coulthard can do for me.
We chatted to him before the qualifying session. We have to give him another big tick, don't we, today? I'm talking about Jenson Button, of course.
Great tradition of British drivers here at the Brickyard at Indianapolis. We've got Graham Hill winning in 66, you've got 65, Jim Clark winning. Jenson Button has taken to part of the Indianapolis circuit and the other part, the infield section, like a duck to water. Very quick, early out of the blocks. Tremendous job from him. I'm very, very pleased for Jenson Button. And that's all with Montoya in his pit, so with the headsets on.
Driven on by Montoya being there, perhaps.
Yeah.
All right, then let's have a word with Jenson Button, shall we? Excellent performance. 6 on the grid, and here he is chatting to Louise.
Jenson, well done, third row of the grid. Are you pleased with that?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I would have liked to have been on the second row. That's where we were this morning, but sixth row's good. Very happy with sixth.
Tell me about that last run. Did you think you could improve a bit?
Yeah, but I think I pushed a bit too hard. The team always say, just push as hard as you can, and if you go off, you go off. But I think I pushed a bit too hard and got a bit wild, but there you go.
But still very well placed for tomorrow.
I think it's good. I'm very pleased to be in the top 6 again, and you never know, maybe we can get some good points tomorrow. We'll see.
Williams finishing the season very well indeed. It'll be a particular pleasure to Jenson Button that he has out-qualified Ralf Schumacher.
Yeah, well, I mean, after his great third place at Spa, Ralf has thought about all that, but Ralf really does like Jenson Button, and he's been quick to say I would like him to stay, but here is Ralf getting it wrong. And when Ralf gets it wrong and he gets out of sync and he drops his head a bit, he tends to get a little bit angry with himself, angry with the engineers, whatever, and things tend to go from bad to worse. And that will have played on his mind a bit. The kid's ahead of me again. The kid, the 20-year-old.
When we emerged from the studio, the Americans will be asking you and me, what's happened to those Jaguars?
Sure. It's sad, isn't it? It's unfortunate because, you know, it's a big market for them here in the States, and there's a lot of Union Jack waving fans here. And this was an in-lap, a bit of a loss of concentration there from Eddie Irvine on the way back in, but a lot of the big wigs, a lot of the big hitters here to watch them. And there he is down in 15th place in the Jaguar.
3 to go, including, of course, this one here. This is a big, big race as far as the championship's concerned, Tony.
You have to say now, as Ross Brawn has said, it's a 3-race championship. This is it, all the way down to the wire now. And as Ron Dennis has said, it only takes one thing, Hackett and Schumacher come together, and then David Coulthard's back in it. It could be a 3-man race.
You never know. And your thoughts on the race, finally?
It's so hard to predict. I think it's going to be so close. But I would say Schumacher at the moment might just edge it.
He's looking good. Let's just confirm how the grid looks for you. Schumacher and David Coulthard up front. Second row, Mika Häkkinen in the McLaren Rubens.